Howdy, folks. AJ coming at you again. And today, I don't come at you as a gamer. I come at you as an American and as a veteran. So, as you all know, yesterday we had another attack on our soil at the Boston Marathon. And I'm sure everybody's been following the news reports and everything ad nauseum, and everybody is, reacting a little bit differently than each other. We all react in our own ways and everything. And you may be thinking, well, what is this guy? No, he's a gamer. He's a middle-aged gamer. And what is he gonna tell me? And I guess I'll qualify the statements I'm going to make by saying that I'm a veteran. I was in the military for 5 years. I was in the Army. I was stationed in Germany for 3 of those 5 years during the Cold War, before the Berlin Wall fell. I was actually there when the Berlin Wall fell, just towards the end of my tour of duty. But up until that point, the Cold War was in full effect. And there was, at one point, there was the CEO, the chairman of the Deutsche Bank, which the only equivalent I can think of in this country, I was going to say it'd be like the head of Bank of America or Wells Fargo or something like that, but in Germany, the Deutsche Bank is even bigger than that. It would be more along the lines of, our Fed chief, the federal chairman of the federal bank, and he was, his name was Alfred Herrhausen, and I'm going to put a link in the description. He was assassinated in the broad daylight in the middle of a street. The attackers, the terrorists at that time, they actually went to the extremes of dressing up as the day before as construction people, and they actually laid wire in the pavement where his car would go across, and they actually closed off a street pretending to be construction, which would force his convoy to take the road that they wanted him to take, where the bomb would be. And they planted a bomb on a bicycle parked right alongside the road, and it was a specific type of bomb that would pierce he had an armored car, armored limousine, and they designed the bomb to pierce that armor, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. I'm gonna put a link to the Wikipedia page for him, but I'll also put a link to a Wall Street Journal article about his assassination, and it goes into a lot more detail of what the terrorists did to make it happen and all that. And it was the Red Army faction is who claimed responsibility for the attack. But I remember, the reason I'm telling this story is I remember we were in the barracks or whatever when that all happened, and we instantly went to ThreatCon Bravo, and for about 2 weeks after that, we were constant guard duty all around our facility, including they even had the infantry unit put their Bradley fighting vehicles at the main gate. It was hardcore. Well, we were prepared for anything. And mind you, the entire time I was over there, we were getting terrorist threats all the time. I was in a nuclear capable unit. Our missiles that I worked on, that I was trained to fire, were nuclear capable. They could support a nuclear warhead. So we were getting regular threats all the time, people that were anti-nuke and all this, plus the terrorist groups knew that we were would be a good target, high-profile target if they were to hit us. And there was one of the guys one of the sergeants I worked for a period of time. He died over there in kind of a suspicious fashion. He drowned in the Mine River, and he had been seen before. His body was found a couple weeks after he went missing, but the night that he went missing, he was seen in the presence of some German nationals in the bar that he was in, and that's who he left. So witnesses said that's who he left with, and that was the last he was ever seen. No way of knowing who they were, whether they were Red Army faction or if it was just a coincidence or whatever, but his wallet was found. The only thing missing, it had plenty of money in it when it was found, but his U.S. Army identification card was missing. The only thing missing. And then he was found dead. So there was always speculation and everything else. So that's the kind of thing we were always dealing with over there. And then when I got out of the military, and I was also trained, I ended up being what they call a DV driver, Distinguished Visitor Driver, which in civilian terms you would call him, a security driver for somebody, a bodyguard who also drives the person, the VIP around, VIP driver. So I went through anti-terrorist driving training and all that, and that was one of the last assignments that I had. And then I got out of the Army and I went into the security field, and I spent the better part of 15 years in the private security field. And I think I've told this story before, but I was involved at Universal Studios is where I worked. And I was a security manager, and there was a workplace shooting. We had a sniper, a disgruntled employee from 10 years previous, who decided to start shooting at one of the buildings, and he hit some people and everything. And I was one of the people that had to respond while we were trying to get the sheriffs and everybody else to respond. I was an armed manager, and there was a couple of others in the office that were, and we were responding to that, and actually LAPD actually got to him just as we were getting to him, and we would have had to take action. We would not have hesitated, but he saw the LAPD car. It was a marked car, and he just put the gun down and put his hands up. So we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to take action. But in any case, so those are just experiences from my lifetime that I've been through, and there's been other more insignificant ones, but regarding violence. So what I'm hoping from this video, if anything, is that we have to continue in your everyday affairs. You have to always be vigilant. And when I say vigilant, I don't mean you have to go out and get a concealed weapons permit and patrol your neighborhood and all that. What I'm saying is, when you're out and about, public events, wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, always keep it in the back of your mind. Always keep it in the back of your mind. Trust your gut. If something doesn't look right, if it looks out of place, or if a person is acting in a peculiar fashion, and your first notion is just look at them and just disregard, but then your gut says, well, wait a second, that doesn't look right. You might want to let somebody know. I'm not saying that would have prevented anything in this Boston Marathon incident if somebody had done that, but I'm saying it couldn't have hurt. There might have been one person in that crowd who saw a parcel or whatever that was, backpack or whatever it was, and all it would have taken was one person to say, why is that just there by itself? There's no one's, it's been sitting there for a while, and no one's, picked it up, no one's around it, whatever the case was, and, went over to a police officer who was there and said, hey, there's an unattended bag over here, and it may come out in the news. We may find out during the investigation. We may find out someone did do that. And then we got a whole other problem. If a police officer or someone was told about this, an item, and they chose to say, oh, I'm sure it's nothing, we don't know. That could come out. I really, really doubt it, and I really hope that's not the case. I would hate to find that out, but regardless, the point I'm trying to get across to you is keep everything in the back of your mind about these types of events. Because in my lifetime, I was in the military. I wasn't in during wartime. And, saw a major terror attack on the head of the Deutsche Bank. One of my sergeants died under suspicious, circumstances, which we all believed that it was foul play somehow, some way. We knew him. He wasn't the type to just, go off for a walk and fall in the river. He was a family man. He had a family and everything else, and it just didn't. So something wasn't right. So anyway, just take it with a grain of salt. You can say, oh, this guy's just a gamer, middle-aged gamer. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and that's fair if you want to, But then again, if I can get somebody to say just one time, hey, that doesn't look right, or that person over there, they're hanging around an area they probably shouldn't be, and they're looking in windows, and they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or whatever the case may be, and they happen to go tell a security person or a cop, and it turns out that I'll give you another story real quick where my instincts have paid off. I was in Las Vegas, and this is back, when you still had the coin operated slot machines and all that. Now everything's electronic. So at that time, you had a little cup. Each casino had a cup to put your coins in to go from machine to machine and whatever. And I was sitting at a blackjack table playing blackjack or whatever, and there was a woman sitting next to me, and she had in her lap, she had her cup, and she had her coins, and she had her wallet and her cigarettes and some other stuff in the cup with it, just sitting in her lap. But on the arm of the chair, she had her purse there. And I'm playing, and I look over and I see there's a guy standing right up against the back of her chair. And unnaturally close, and I'm at the corner of my eye, I'm watching this guy, and I noticed she's got everything in her lap, so I wasn't too concerned. So he moved over to another seat to watch somebody else, and I leaned over to her and I said, did you know there was anybody standing behind you? And she goes, she turns around, she goes, there was? And I go, there was a guy right behind you, right up against your seat. And I said, why don't you check your purse? And so just as she started to turn around to check her purse and everything, I made eye contact with the guy again. And he started walking, at a fast pace. He bolted, I wouldn't say he bolted, but he walked at a very fast pace to get away, to walk, and made overt movements to get away from where we were. So I called the pit boss over, and for those of you that are too young to know what a pit boss is, he's the guy who's in charge of all the games that are going on, and he's usually in a suit and everything. And I called him over, and I'm watching the guy. He's going towards the eggs, and I said, you might want to call your security guys. I think that guy's a pickpocket. And he got on the radio, and they got the guy at the exit, and he said they would take it from there. They never told me whether he was a pickpocket or whatever. But I went through training by a guy named Oscar O'Lear from LAPD, who was a matter of fact, I'll put a link to his Wikipedia page in there for you too. Oscar O'Lear was the world's most leading expert on pickpockets, and he worked for the LAPD for probably 30 years or whatever. And he was the one who trained us, who came and trained us at Universal, and because we had a pickpocket problem and everything. And so I'm hoping that I saved somebody the heartache of having their wallet or something taken or whatever. My guess is he probably did a dip into that woman's purse on the back of her chair, and because she was smart enough to have her wallet and everything right here, he probably didn't there was nothing that worthwhile taking. Because my guess is if he would have felt the wallet, he would have dipped the wallet and turned around and, you know, took off or whatever. And that's probably why he moved to the other chair or whatever he was doing. So anyway, those are just some stories from my lifetime of things that I've experienced. So take it with a grain of salt for what it's worth, whatever. And I hope that in some way I've been able to help. We will catch you guys on the flip side.